Paul, this is a historic contest at the Tony Awards in the race for Best Lead Actress in a Play, where we have two sets of nominees from two different plays. I'm talking about Hope Davis and Marcia Gay Harden from God of Carnage, and Janet McTeer and Harriet Walter from Mary Stuart. And then coming up the middle is Jane Fonda in 33 Variations. And you do think she's going to come up the middle, don't you? You're betting on Jane.
Oh, absolutely, Tom. Not just because the odds are in her favor. There have been 6 times in the past when there have been a pair of actresses from a play nominated, and only 2 of those 6 instances have we seen one of those women win. So,
yeah,
one
but
in 3 chances.
I absolutely discount this theory of yours, and I know that you're passionate about it, but look at one of the exceptions in August Osage County, where Deanna Dunnigan was so clearly the favorite there, that in the case of Marcia Gay Harden, there's Hope Davis is hopeless in this race. Between Janet McTeer and Harriet Walter, forget Harriet Walter. This is all about Janet McTeer if one of those dames wins, right?
Well, I have to agree with you about Hope Davis. I think she should just be hoping for an Emmy nomination for her work on In Treatment right now, because if she thinks she's got a chance of winning this Tony, she needs to go back into treatment. I mean, it is the... I agree with you. It could be Marcia Gay Harden from God of Carnage. I think you and I both agree it's going to win Best Play, right, Tom?
Yes, and then if it wins Best Play, we know that there's a sweep factor here. And the people who are nominated in the acting categories often go along for the ride. For example, Russell Crowe in Gladiator at the Oscars is certainly a good example here. If anybody wins a Tony for acting among the cast here, and all 4 lead performances are nominated in Carnage, it's going to be Marcia Gay Harden. She is the standout performance in this play. She's got the cool factor. She's got the momentum. Most pundits are betting on her, but you aren't. Why not?
Well, listen, Marcia Gay Harden, she'd been on Broadway before, back in the early 90s, did both parts of Angels in America. Funnily enough, she got a Tony nomination in Featured Actress. She lost to Jeff Daniels' co-star in something called Redwood Curtain, Deborah Monk, who's a veteran of Broadway. So, when you're talking about Broadway veterans, you don't get much more veteran than Jane Fonda.
Okay, Jane Fonda is not as cool as she used to be, and right now, if it comes down to cool factor, and often it does, I think Marcia's got it. Jane Fonda gives the best performance of the 5 in this category. There's no doubt about that. She's battling Lou Gehrig's disease. She's fantastic in this role. But I don't think that's what they're voting on at any show business award. I think it has a lot to do with the cool factor, and I think Jane Fonda's pretty cool, but I don't think the newer voters may think so. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tom, but I don't think there are as many quote-unquote cool voters among the Tony contingent. You'll often invoke the steak eaters among the Oscar voters, those behind-the-scenes people, and that vote with the different parts of their body. And that's why the Best Actress lineup at the Oscars looks like a beauty pageant. But I'll tell you, Jane Fonda. Now, we've got to remember, it's a very small group that votes for the Tonys. It's under 800. Jane Fonda has been working that crowd. I mean, she has been to every event, every opening. I mean, everything. And I know Marcia Gay Harden's been doing it as well. But I do think that Jane Fonda, she's got the first of all, the name, the invoking of the theatrical legacy of her father.
Sometimes that's a drawback at the Tonys, though, isn't it? Sometimes the insular community of Broadway snobs who vote for this award don't appreciate the big Hollywood names. Usually the big Hollywood names lose at the Tonys.
Well, you're right, but I would say that Jane Fonda is no longer a big Hollywood name. She's reinvented herself yet again. She has really, embraced the Broadway community. She did a wonderful send-up of her image as a workout queen at the Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS fundraiser, really worthwhile charity, where she spearheaded a campaign that her play raised more money than any show on Broadway, including God of Carnage. She also did, very wisely, sketch in front of the road producers. Now, she's not going to... Is she going to tour with that play?
No.
Maybe next year. But she went there because she knows that's a big block of voters. Now, I think that the road producers are certainly going to be tempted to vote for Marcia Gay Harden, because it gives them the chance to advertise God of Carnage, which will win Best Play, as the winner of an X number of Tonys. And Marcia Gay's will be hidden in that total. So, but let's not forget those two battling queens. And by that, I'm not talking about two designers here, costume designers. I'm talking about Harriet Walter and Janet McTeer from Mary Stuart. Talk about acting tour de force. Those two dames are up on that stage for 3 hours delivering powerhouse performances. You and I saw it, and we're both blown away. Weren't we, Tom?
Yes, and I don't think that Harriet Walter has as much of a chance as Janet McTeer does. And before you launch into your theory that the actress who portrays Queen Elizabeth usually wins the Emmy, the Oscar, and that's all true, Janet McTeer has more name recognition here and more theatrical respect, I think, more panache among voters. And if one of them were to pull off an upset here, I think it would be Janet McTeer. We know she won the Drama Desk Award. I think she's vaguely in the running here, but very vaguely.
Oh, well, I think that Janet McTeer is not vaguely in the running. I think she's a strong contender. She won the Tony for her only other Broadway appearance, which was over a decade ago in A Doll's House. But the reason I'm sort of thinking if either of those women could be making it to the podium, it's Harriet Walter. When the two of them went up against each other, now granted they both lost the Olivier to a woman named Eve Best, who was in a revival of Hedda Gabler, but Harriet Walter won the Evening Standard Award, not Janet McTeer, for this performance. You have to remember that play ends with Elizabeth on stage. That's who, when you leave the theater, you're remembering Elizabeth. I mean, Mary's head's already gone rolling off at that point, and it could be Elizabeth that ends up not only keeping the crown, but winning the Tony.
The Evening Standard Award is given away by a newspaper in London. I think it has absolutely no bearing in this case. I think this is a race between your gal, Jane Fonda, and my gal, Marcia Gay Harden. And I agree with you, Paul. We haven't seen this measure of campaigning as vigorously among stars in a long, long time. I don't think there is a baby these gals haven't kissed, a back they haven't slapped all along the Great White Way. But I think that this is Marcia's award.
Tom.
What's that?
You're to blame. You're the one that told Jane Fonda that if she won the Tony, she'd be the 17th person to win the acting Triple Crown, something her father couldn't do. You're the one that reminded her that she'd been nominated for a Tony Award back in 1960. So if Marcia Gay Harden has anyone to blame when she loses to Jane Fonda, as she's going to, it's Tom O'Neil.
That's because Tom O'Neil was standing 3 feet away from Paul Sheehan, who told him all this stuff, as I was telling Jane. So I think that it's all going to be your fault. If Marcia loses this because Jane cranking up that campaign machine to win this. But it is great to see these gals want it this bad. They both have Oscars. They don't really need a Tony Award. But they want this bad. They're both worthy winners if they get their names announced. But I disagree with you, Paul. It's Marcia, baby. It's Marcia. It ain't Jane.
Marcia. We'll leave it on that.